My name is Daniel. Today, I'm introducing my only brother to you. He's a much-loved, proud brother, always kind and dependable. When I was 5 years old, my real father passed away because of illness. My father was a quiet and reserved man. Though he was busy and didn't see us much during the weekdays, on the weekends, he always took my mother and me to the park or the zoo. But he died due to overworking, as he was incredibly busy. When my mother married my father, both sets of parents disapproved, so there were no relatives to rely on. And for a while, it was just my mother and me. She worked hard and raised me by herself. Then, when I was 13, my mother remarried. I knew my mother was struggling on her own for my sake, so I was thrilled that she was trying to find happiness. My new father is a very cheerful and talkative person. He had the complete opposite personality of my deceased father. And though I was initially shy, I quickly warmed up to my new father's bright personality. So our family was always smiling, and it made me happy to see my mother smiling so contentedly. And my new father had a 23-year-old son. That's my brother. Tall and well-built, my brother somehow looked very cool. Since he had already moved out, we rarely met, and at first, I didn't feel like he was a part of the family. But sometime after my mother remarried, one day, as soon as I started my summer break, it seemed like my brother got his summer vacation too, and he suddenly came home. The last time I had seen my brother was when my mother remarried. I was so nervous at the sudden event that I couldn't even look him in the eye or talk to him. The next day, our whole family went out to have fun. The destination was the beach, a summer theme. My father drove us there. I was less nervous than the day before, but still not quite normal, though I could talk much more freely compared to yesterday.
Daniel, what are you doing in club activities?
My brother, noticing my nervousness, actively spoke to me. I'm in the going home club, but
Are you bad at sports, Daniel?
I'm good at sports, but I'm not so good with group activities. Even though I couldn't give more than a lukewarm response, he kindly kept the conversation going.
I see. So are you good at your studies?
Well, if you ask if I'm good at it, it's a bit tricky, but I think I do all right.
Oh, that's awesome. When I was in middle school, I couldn't study at all.
He said, showering me with praise. I felt a bit embarrassed, but I'd never been complimented like that by an older person before, so I was really happy about it. When we got to the beach, we immediately started preparing for a barbecue. After eating lots of meat, my big brother suggested competitions like who could hold their breath in the water the longest or playing beach ball in the water. My big bro was acting like a child, but he'd also say,
Watch out, the water's deep over there.
And that made him feel like a truly dependable brother. Having never had a sibling and always playing alone, this was a new and very enjoyable experience for me. I hadn't felt it before, but I thought having a sibling was nice. That's what I was thinking as we were leaving the beach. And on the way back, my big brother said,
I'll treat you to this,
and bought me ice cream. For some reason, that ice cream tasted even better than usual. My big brother stayed at our house for about 3 more days before going back to his place, which was a bit away. He said he'd be back for Christmas, so my parents and I were looking forward to it. But before we could celebrate Christmas with my big brother, my parents died in a car accident around November. They hadn't even been married for a year yet. A tragic accident had taken them both. I, a middle school student left alone in the house, was in such a state of panic that I couldn't even hear what the police were saying. Naturally, my big brother heard the news and hurriedly flew in, even though he had been living independently far away. From then on, he took care of everything for the funeral and all sorts of other matters. After the funeral, while I was still in shock, my big brother said to me,
You can live with me. You can go to middle school over here.
I had heard before that he was living with his girlfriend, so I felt some hesitation, but there was no other way for me, a middle school student, to live. Feeling apologetic, I did as my big brother said. At first, it was awkward and embarrassing, but his girlfriend, Luna, was kind, and thanks to the two of them, I was able to go to college. After becoming a college student, I wanted to help my older brother, so I started working part-time. My brother said,
You don't have to do that. Just focus on your studies.
But somehow I persuaded him to let me work part-time just 3 days a week. Then one day, I heard my brother and his girlfriend Luna arguing in the living room. I was listening to their conversation from my room, the one my brother had given me. Living under the same roof for many years, it's not like they never argue, but this time it felt a bit different. So I left my room and headed towards the living room. And I called out to the two of them, "What's going on?" Hearing my voice, the two looked over in surprise, and my brother opened his mouth.
You stay in your room.
Since my brother told me that, there was nothing I could do. I was worried, but I decided to go back to my room. But still, I was curious, so I put my ear to the door to try to hear what they were talking about. However, my brother must have known what I was doing because they started speaking in whispers, and I couldn't hear their conversation at all. A few minutes later, I heard the living room door slam, followed by the sound of running, and then someone left through the front door. I had a bad feeling about this, so I went to the living room, and there was my brother, sitting on the floor. "Are you okay? What happened?" I asked. I thought it might not be right to interfere in their problems, but I wanted to help them in any way I could. After a few seconds of silence, my brother said,
We might break up.
in a deflated voice. I was shocked. They had always been so close, and I couldn't understand why they would break up now. I love my brother, but I also love Luna as if she were part of the family. So I didn't want them to break up. From the way my brother sounded earlier, I could tell he didn't want to break up either. I wanted to do whatever I could to make these two happy after all they've done for me. I thought desperately about what I could do. And the answer I came up with was, "Brother, I'll go find her." My brother said,
Stop it now. There's no point in doing that.
but I ignored those words and rushed out of the house. However, despite my urgency, I had no clue where Luna might have gone. Nevertheless, my desire for my brother and Luna to be happy remained unchanged. I was prepared for a long search, but surprisingly, I found her quite easily. It took about 30 seconds. She was sitting alone on a bench in a nearby park. "What's going on? Was there a problem?" Luna was startled to hear my voice but seemed relieved when she saw my face, and she gestured for me to sit on the bench. Once I was seated, she explained what had led to the fight. According to Luna, their fights usually happen when one of them is irritated, but today, it seemed that both had various stresses building up, so the argument was more intense than usual. And in the end, Luna said something like,
If that's how you feel, we might as well break up.
My brother, his head hot with anger, responded.
Well, that's fine with me.
Luna told me that after hearing my brother say that, she came to her senses. She thought that if she stayed in that situation, things would get worse, so she left the house to cool off. I was relieved to hear this. I could see that my brother and Luna still loved each other, so I decided to tell Luna my honest feelings. When my parents died, I was so happy that my brother told me to come to live with him. But when I heard he was living with his girlfriend, I was seriously worried about whether we'd get along. But Luna, you were so kind to me. Even though you and my brother aren't related to me by blood and could have kicked me out at any time, you both raised me without a single complaint. I'm grateful for that. That's why I sincerely want you and my brother to be happy. I want to see you two smiling again. So let's go home together. I'll apologize to him with you. When Luna heard those words, tears welled in her eyes, and I was a little surprised. Then Luna said,
Daniel, thank you.
and smiled at me. After that, about 10 minutes later, the two of us returned to the house where my brother was waiting. When we arrived, my brother was standing at the entrance and said,
Luna, I'm sorry. I got a little heated and said too much. Please forgive me.
It seems his head had cooled down in those few minutes. Then, Luna also said,
I'm sorry too.
and bowed her head deeply. In this way, my brother and she made up. Really, what a troublesome couple. I joked, only to be lightly smacked by my brother, who said,
Don't get cocky.
but after that, the two of them said,
Thank you.
and the three of us laughed together like we always do. I truly loved these moments. Time went on, and by the spring of my senior year in college, I had secured a job. After the job offer ceremony, my brother invited me to go out for drinks, and we went to a local bar. That's where I told my brother something I'd been thinking about. Bro, when I graduate from college, I'm going to move out. Thanks for everything. Hearing this, My brother initially looked shocked, but then tears began to roll down his cheeks. An unexpected reaction. Bro, I stammered. Even though my kind-hearted brother wasn't married yet, raising me, who was still a child, must have been a burden. I thought he would be happy to be free from it. After calming his tears, my brother spoke.
You lost your family and were all alone. It must have been lonely, and there must have been tough times too. You did well.
And then he patted my head. Hearing those words, I also found tears welling up in my eyes. Two older men, crying and patting each other's heads, might have seemed strange to anyone watching, but we didn't care. It was a moment that felt long yet fleeting, and only my brother and I understood as tears kept flowing. A few months passed, and my brother, John, decided to throw a party to celebrate my graduation. While John, his girlfriend Luna, and I were sitting around the dining table at home, my brother suddenly said with a serious face,
Luna, I have something to tell you.
Luna and I were surprised by the sudden change in atmosphere after all the casual conversation we'd been having. Feeling something was off, I placed the spoon I was holding onto the plate.
Daniel is graduating from college and will soon be on his own. Thanks for supporting us all this time. We've put you through a lot, but I want you to stay with me, even with all my faults. Will you marry me?
This was a proposal. I never expected to witness a proposal right before my eyes, and my mouth hung open in shock.
I don't think of it as a burden at all. Please, let's be together.
Luna replied, tears streaming down her cheeks. The two of them shyly grinned at each other, embarrassed. I wondered if I was intruding, but I had something to say to them, so I spoke up. Brother, Luna, thank you so much for everything, I said, and the two of them started crying even more. Seeing that, I also began to cry. The day before I was to leave home, the two of them submitted their marriage papers. Seeing their happy faces, I was truly overjoyed.
Come by and show us your happy face sometimes.
You can always come home.
John and Luna said to me, tears in their eyes, on the day I left. I lost my parents when I was in middle school and thought I was all alone, but now I have a family who will always accept me. It's because of this that I can live positively today. Even without blood ties, if there's a bond, you can become family. That's what I truly believe. I'm off. I left the two of them, smiling as I went.